Hi, how's it going? It's Michael Redmond here. Now, you may well know me as a stand-up comedian, which I actually was for over 30 years, or you might know me better as Father Stone from the Channel 4 sitcom Father Ted. And if that happens to be the case, and you're still wondering how I am after all these years, well, I'm still fine. So, what am I doing here? Well, I've kind of retired from stand-up, but I keep coming up with, the odd idea for a joke or a comedy monologue or a comedy routine and that kind of thing, because to be honest with you, I quickly realised that taking up gardening in retirement wasn't going to satisfy me enough. It wasn't going to do it for me. Jesus, gardening. And anyway, I don't have a garden, which is probably why I was often found standing in other people's gardens over the years. So what's this all about? Well, this is my comedy podcast, which I've called "What Are You Doing in My Garden?" I suppose the best way to describe it is it's a short weekly podcast in which I'll be, throwing in a joke or two or talking about a range of things from, say, drink driving in Ireland in the 1970s, my chance encounter with Joanna Lumley, pole vaulting geriatrics, and lots of other things. But no poetry. Absolutely no bloody poetry. So if you've anything to say or add to what I've been musing on the podcast, it'd be great to hear from you. Or in fact, also if you've any questions about Father Ted, I'd be happy to answer them as well. The email address for the podcast is whatareyoudoinginmygarden@gmail.com. Hello, how's it going? Welcome back to What Are You Doing in My Garden? And it's actually a very nice sunny day here in Glasgow, which is very rare. And I'm recording this from my sitting room in Glasgow in an area called Mary Hill, which many of you may not be aware of, but it's actually known as the Little Venice of Glasgow because it has a canal running through it. So I was thinking maybe one day I'll ring up the Italian embassy and ask maybe them to change the name of Venice to Little Mary Hill and see what they say. Probably get no reaction, but it'd be good to hear what they say. So we're already on to episode 9 of the podcast, which is fantastic. And this week you'll be hearing about my second little chat with Gavin Mitchell, the wonderful Gavin Mitchell, and you'll also learn about the origin of the Riverdance. Now, if you happen to listen to last week's episode, and in particular the first part of the chat I had with Gavin Mitchell, he touched on the singer named Chubby Checker. Now, I realise many of you would be totally unaware of the singer Chubby Checker, but he was a singer in the 1960s who invented the dance craze, the twist, later to be revived in that John Travolta film. What was it called? Pulp Fiction, with some woman, I can't remember her name. Uma Thurman. In fact, there's a comedian who has a great joke about Uma Thurman, Geordie comedian called Seymour Mace. He said it's strange. I wonder is Uma Thurman going around sort of realising that her name sounds like something that you've pull something in your shoulder. Ooh, Uma Thurman, which I think is one of my favourite jokes. Anyway, Chubby Checker invented the dance craze, the twist. And he had a song about it called Let's Twist Again. And it went like, come on, let's twist again like we did last summer. Come on, let's twist again like we did last year. Now, what poor old Chubby didn't understand is that people have to get on with their lives, maybe jobs to go to, mortgages to pay, that kind of thing. I mean, probably all right spending one summer twisting the night away, but, that sort of thing can't go on, and poor old Chubby could never accept that. That was the tragedy of Chubby Checker. He was never heard of again, although you do hear the record played on the radio now and again. But speaking about dance crazes and dance forms, I mean, I know 1960 probably sounds years and years ago, ancient to a lot of you, but it's actually, as regards dancing, it's quite modern, because most dances go back hundreds and hundreds of years ago, back to the 15th, 16th century. But I came across a really interesting piece of information recently about the origin of Irish dancing. Now, many of you will know, in fact, you should all know that Irish dancing, even if you don't dance it, they don't use their arms. They keep their arms strictly down by their side. They don't use their arms at all when they're doing Irish dancing. And Irish dancing was, I say it was invented, but it was kind of unwittingly invented. It was in the year 1647 it was. And it was unwittingly invented by a woman named Kathleen Ní Húllahan. Now, Kathleen, I shouldn't really giggle, but she was it was 400 years ago, so it doesn't really matter. It's not topical anymore. But she was born without any arms, which was unfortunate for Kathleen. But she was a very expressive woman. And if she was speaking to somebody and she wanted to express herself, she couldn't gesticulate with her arms because she didn't have any, so she would gesticulate with her legs instead. So a lot of the villagers around that time, a bit ignorant, sort of 400 or 500 years ago, they didn't really know what she was about. They thought she was a bit weird. Then eventually they decided that she might be a bit of a witch, because jumping up and down with her legs, anytime she talked, she'd be jumping up and down like there was no tomorrow. So after a while, the villagers sort of got together and decided they would throw her into the nearest river to see if she was a witch. So they pulled her down to the river and threw her in, and to see if she would sink or swim, whether she was a witch or not. And she didn't sink. She floated down the river, still kicking her legs about like there was no tomorrow. And that is basically how Irish dancing first started. And it's also how Michael Flatley got the idea for his dancing extravaganza, the river dance. So coming up, the second part of my chat with the wonderful Gavin Mitchell, which I hope you'll enjoy. We chatted about loads of things. We had a great evening, and there's a particularly brilliant story about his dog, which you will hear in a few minutes. But we had a great time, and I really enjoyed interviewing him. It's not I can't say it's a natural thing for me, because when I started off, I started off as a writer rather than a performer, and then slowly went into stand-up, and then now I'm having a go at podcasting, which isn't really, well, maybe it's becoming a natural thing for me, but it certainly wasn't a natural thing for me when I started off, because I started off as a writer, and then moved into stand-up, and now I'm having a go at podcasting after all these years. But as I say, it's not a natural thing for me, because I remember when I was starting off writing gags, I decided to do an audition in RT television in Ireland for a radio presenter, sort of, chatting and talking to people and just chatting off the top of your head. And you had to have a script prepared for the audition, which I had. And I did, and I think it lasted about 10 minutes. And at the end, the producer, he was very nice, but he said, I really enjoyed that, Michael. The script was really good, but I'm not so sure about the presenting. Maybe stick to the scripts for the time being. So I suppose you could say it wasn't my destiny to be a radio presenter. But I did have a brilliant chat with Gavin. We talked about a range of things, and there's one brilliant story about his dog in the interview, which I think you'll really enjoy. His dog, it's called Bob. Sorry, I almost slightly forgot his name. Sorry, Gavin, but if you're in any doubt, I know the name of Gavin's dog is Bob. So thanks again to Gavin for coming in. We had a brilliant time. And I think my interviewing technique is getting better, so fuck that producer in RT. I know what I'm doing now. And I hope to interview lots more comedians in the future, even, it doesn't have to be comedians, just comic performers, or maybe even trapeze artists. So here we go with part two of my chat with Gavin Mitchell, and we pick it up as we interviewers say. Once again, take note, RTE producer. We pick it up with Gavin telling a wonderful story about a rather controversial play he was in. It's great stuff. Have a listen.
Lee, I'll come back to me. But the show's bizarre. You could never perform it now. You'd never get away with it. It's all about a guy.
You okay for some water, by the way?
I'm fine, thanks.
Sure.
A guy.
Sorry to interrupt.
Who he's a tax inspector or something. He's a salesman, and he's an Elvis impersonator by night.
Yeah.
And he has a car crash and ends up he's a quadriplegic.
Okay.
And he goes home, and it's how it affects his family. His wife becomes an nymphomaniac. His daughter becomes bulimic, and another thing that happens to him is he keeps getting erections all the time as a quadriplegic. And they take in a lodger, and this is a comedy, folks. They take in a lodger. The lodger screws his wife and screws his daughter while he's in the wheelchair seeing it all. And stuff. And then you have these surreal moments where he turns back into Elvis and he sings Elvis. So there's things that I would sing The Wonder of You while my daughter's getting shagged and top her. And I go, when no one else can understand me, and everything I do is wrong. And so I had to learn to do
You can sing as well, though, can't you? You can sing.
So I had to learn to do Elvis and try to learn to sing like Elvis and stuff. And so that was a challenge. Oh, and you know, off at a tangent, but it's my favourite. One of my favourite things that ever happened, best line that's ever been said to me was during doing Cooking with Elvis. Is that there's a point where towards the end of the show, because he gets these erections, there's a scene where the lodger basically wanks him off at one point. And the way it's done is the wheelchair faces upstage away from the audience. I'm in the wheelchair going, oh. So I was playing a quadriplegic. So you could never do that now. And he wanks me off. and we'd have a wee bag of like ice and sugar and water, and he'd pop that, and it would shoot in there.
That's the cool.
So the audience would all go,
Jesus.
but this night he does it, and I'm going, and he goes pop, and it shot over my shoulder into the audience. So I hear all the audience going, "Oh my!" and I'm still trying to keep in character as this quadriplegic guy.
Just wanted to burst out laughing outside, didn't you?
And 2 scenes later, I come back on in this amazing Elvis suit and all that. We do the final bit, and I sing the end of American Trilogy, and it's everything but the kitchen sink, all these lights and effects and blah blah blah, and then they drop all these dollars. And it goes into bum bum ba-da-ba-da-ba, Easy Rider, and I would run down and touch people's hands. And thank you very much, thank you very much. And as I run down, and Elvis attracts pretty fucking weird fans.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah.
Quite strange.
Yeah.
And I came across quite a few of them. No pun intended. And since the very first day, there was people wanting things signed, and you'd go to sign it, and they go, hold on. No, to my number one fan, and you're like, aye, sure, not a problem. And then they go, oh no, Elvis Presley, and I had to sign things as Elvis.
They probably in their head believed you were Elvis Presley. Yeah,
bonkers. Yeah. But there was one guy I could see him desperately trying to touch me, and he's like, in the second row, and I thought, well, should I not? Well, I give him the benefit of the doubt, so I think, bugger it. And I ran down and I go to take the guy's hand, he just grabbed my hand really tightly and wouldn't let it go, and looked me straight in the eye, and he just said, thanks for spunking on me, Elvis. My work here is done.
What more can I do?
Yeah. And I thought,
I've reached the zenith of my career.
If I ever write an autobiography, it will be called "Thanks for Spunking on Me, Elvis: My Life in Theatre."
Speaking about spunking, I remember there was as I like to do. It was during Fags, Mags and Bags, not during the recording, once again during a break, and there was some actor, I don't know if you can mention his name, he was apparently a vile person. I don't know what he was in. I think he was in, what's that, the guy with the vest.
Oh God, I forgot it. Borat? No, it's
really well known. No, it was a Scottish sitcom.
Rob C?
Yeah, Rob C. Yeah. Apparently he was in that, but he's apparently a vile person. You all knew, I didn't, because he was an actor, but the story was that when he was wanking, he used to get his dog to lick his balls.
Oh, right.
And when whoever was told that story, everybody else went, ooh, and you went, oh, everyone does that.
We've all done it. It doesn't make you a bad person. Yeah. Why do you think I've got Bob? Bob the dog. Is he still here? He's probably get paranoid and never started talking about that poor bugger. Disappeared.
Does he want some water? Do you know?
You'll have to ask Bob. I can't speak for him.
Bob, do you want some water, Bob? I was just ignoring you completely.
It's quite settled. Yeah, the funny, and by hangs the tale, the story of Bob. Actually, Bob is funny because
please do. Yeah.
About 6 years ago or something like that, a woman I was going out with at the time, we were meant to be on a romantic holiday, and she's a musician, and she ended up just doing music sessions all the time in this little mountain village in Italy, which was fine, beautiful voice and fantastic musician. But when somebody's singing 2-3 times a day for a fortnight,
wasn't what you'd planned for the holiday.
Aye, it wasn't really a romantic
could we
holiday.
Go for a meal or go to the beach maybe once?
What was the point in this? So eventually, and I can't play anything. I'd just be sitting drinking and getting fed up. So one night, out of complete boredom, I just started going, Bob. And people going, what's he doing? And I invented an invisible dog.
So Bob came before Bob, basically.
Yeah. So I invented this invisible dog called Bob, going and clamped my hands up the piazza and go, come on then,
come on boy,
come on, here you go. What the fuck is he doing? And then everybody bought into it. So I'd walk through the piazza during the daytime and get a turn and I go, where is Bob? I'm like, oh God, wait a minute. Oh, there he is. Come on, Bob, come on. And then they started putting water out for him and stuff like that. And people would come over to me and go, hey, Bob. And just pat for it. It was brilliant. So Bob became this thing. I completely forgot about it. And then, 5 years ago now, it just went right out of my head. And my pal Claire walk that I do. I've always done Casablanca with. I'd kind of thought about getting a dog, but didn't know how practical it was with work and things like that. And then I knew I was slowing down a bit. And she sent me this picture of Bob that I now have. And she said, I think you'll like this guy. He's a wee rascal. He's got a bit of character about him. And all that. And I looked at the photograph and thought, yeah, he
looks a bit different.
He's cute. I like him. He's a Doug.
Yeah.
A Doug.
Proper Doug.
And I thought, he's brilliant. And then I looked down and I saw his name and I thought she was taking the piss because he was called Bobby.
Really?
Yeah, he was called Bobby.
I thought you were going to say just because you did the Bob thing, you were going to call him.
Yeah, it's better.
That is bizarre.
No. Fuck that.
It's fate, basically.
I'm not having a dog called Bobby. Right. Apart from anything else, I'm not walking about Kelvin Grove Park late at night shouting in my Bobby.
Bobby.
You seen my Bobby? Has anybody seen my Bobby? If you do see him, you give him a wee clap. And so it's like, no. And I said, no, so you've got to see if you click with the dog and meet the dog and all that kind of thing. But I'll see him. We'll go and see him. So it was people were fostering him over in Kings Park because he's a Spanish dog. He's a Spanish rescue dog. So I go over to meet Bob and we clicked immediately. So I met him a couple of times, took him out for a walk and stuff. And then the woman said, what do you think? And you're going to adopt him? And I said, yeah, I think I am actually. I really like him a lot. Actually, he's got a brilliant personality and stuff. And he's
suits you kind of,
I love him. And he said, can I now tell you something? He said, I believe things happen for a reason. Right.
What's coming kind of it?
Where are we going with this? And he said, the last 4 dogs that I rescued from Spain, I called them Jack, Victor, Isa, and Bobby, and you chose Bobby.
That's fucking bizarre.
He was named after you, but we didn't want to tell you. And I was like, jeez.
Fucking hell. That
true.
is an amazing fucking story.
That's absolutely true.
That's brilliant.
And me and my mate John had went to get him, and I was like, wow, that's mental.
That is mental, yeah.
And I'd completely also forgotten about the invisible dog I'd made up. So then John and I go to the pub and we're sitting going, right, what will we change his name to? So we come up with all sorts, Rusty, Patch.
Yeah, the usual stuff, yeah.
But his name suits him, but just shorten it to Bob. We'll get away with Bob. So that's how he became Bob.
That's
Bob
brilliant.
the dog.
That is an amazing story.
But
no, I'd never heard that before. That's fantastic.
He's actually Bobby. Named after him, but I didn't. And also, people just thought, narcissistic, egotistical wanker are you? Listen to your dog, Bobby.
It's almost his destiny to come to you then, almost, isn't it?
Yeah. No, you couldn't write it.
That's brilliant.
Unbelievable.
That's fantastic, yeah.
So he's awful special.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I love him very, very much. But he's a crack wee guy. But yeah, you couldn't write it.
You have some amazing stories, Gov. You really have. One last question I really want to ask is, how's your prostate?
Would you like to check? Here we go. It's going full circle. Nothing about it. As far as I know,
it's all right, Jay.
I keep meaning to get another check. Is that brilliant thing when you turn 50? It was the first kind of present I got was when you get that thing through to send
it's charming.
A sample.
Yeah.
Here we go. It's that.
Yeah, I just got one the other day.
Oh God, I've not had one for a while. Yeah. And then they this is a great way to end. They found polyps, and I had to go in, and it was all women. So it was a wee Irish nurse holding my hand and my arm. I was like gripping on her, knees up at the chin, and all these other women with various instruments up my backside, and said, "Look, you can watch, and you can watch the television." And I was like, "Oh, aye, smashing." So it looked like she had a thing that she could cut the polyp in a wee net to kind of catch it, but she would cut it and then she would miss it and then she's trying to scrape it out. So it was surreal where I'm watching this and feeling it. And she's been quite rough and kind of, and I'm going, oh, and she's like, come on now. It's very sort of, grow up. Come on.
I see
you're
this
a big
every
boy.
day. Yeah.
And this wee Irish nurse is going, it's all right. And it was something like, this woman said, well, you've got such and such disease, this big long thing. You've got blah, blah, blah. And the Irish nurse just said to me, don't worry about it, I'll explain that to you later. And I went, all right, okay. And we finished it. I went, what did that mean that I've got such a... Said, basically, you're just a Glaswegian. You've got
Glaswegian syndrome.
You've got eat too many chips, you've got a square arsehole. That's what it is. Like, oh, okay, thanks. You're putting it in layman's terms.
I had a colonoscopy. Colonoscopy, is that one?
Aye, right.
An actual steel thing they shove up the jackfruit.
This is a different podcast.
This is a different point. Yes, it's pretty interesting. I'll just tell you briefly.
Hello and welcome to Shit Talk.
Maybe that's an idea for another podcast. Yeah. Shit Talk. They put it up and they take a little snip of your, just to check if everything's there, and then they take it out again. But it was extremely fucking painful. It was horrendous. But I remember, I think they recognised me as being a stand-up. They were kind of, they said they'd been to the stand and all that. And but then the guy who was probably chief doctor was in charge of him. He says, "Have you ever had a colonoscopy? What is it?
Colonoscopy.
Colonoscopy before, Michael?" And I said, "No, but now that I've had one, there's no fucking stopping me." That was the prostate wasn't actually the last question. That was just a joke. The episode with this Mike Tyne is about phobias, and I was just wondering, do you actually have any phobias, any interesting phobias on you? Well, any phobia at all?
I do actually. I have quite a strange one. I know people with strange. I have a couple of ex-girlfriends who had strange phobias. Probably me. But mine is, and it's kind of specific, but it's kind of buttons.
I've heard of this, yeah.
Because about buttons.
Yeah. But that's pretty more common than you would think.
Thank God for that. I thought you might suddenly look at scans.
Because I put out a few questions on social media about it because we were doing an episode about phobias. And a lot of people did reply with stuff. Yeah, there was three about buttons, yeah.
Very, it's straight, but it's very specific kind of buttons.
And I noticed you're not wearing any buttons.
And it's weird. It's like, but they have to be. It's if they're really small.
Yeah.
Or really specifically, like women's cardigans. There's like tiny little buttons in women's cardigans, or peril buttons.
Yeah.
And they just give me the creeps. I can't touch them, and I can't. Or when I was younger, if a button came off my dad's shirt or something like that, my mum left it in the mantelpiece or something. I was like,
really?
I couldn't touch the button.
It's weird.
Really weird. I think I know where it comes from.
Oh, really? Yeah.
As well. That there used to be. I had an Aunt Julia who lived near Kelvin Hall. It was a bizarro character. She was like Miss Haversham or something.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And she lived in this the top of this tenement with her daughter, who must have been. Well, my Aunt Julia was about 90 odds, so her daughter was about 70. And had never married. No, it was very strange setup.
Never
she
married.
Looked after her. But you got to this place, and I think my Aunt Julia had been in the Raj and stuff. And so when you walked in this tenement house, all down their hall was stuffed animal heads. Oh. And it was dimly lit. And I was tiny, I was a wee boy. So you're just looking up going, ooh, it's just these animals in the glue and everything. And then you went into this living room and there was my Aunt Julia sitting with a car rug over her and all that, going, hello. Like,
going to my den, wee boy.
And I always remember at one point, she just sort of said, well, maybe I will get Gavin a sweetie. Go and get him a sweetie. So the other
I thought you said suitcase there for a minute.
I can't remember her
sweetie.
name. But she opened this cupboard, get out like a biscuit tin.
All aunts used to have biscuit tins in those days. I remember them.
And this tartan biscuit tin on it, and she opened up the biscuit tin. And this is where it all gets a bit hazy. But it was like, I don't know if it was sweeties mixed with buttons or it was a tin of just, don't laugh at my phobia, Michael. Or it was just a tin of buttons. But I had to put my hand in. And I think the whole thing just
got all mixed up, kind of
creeped me out and gave me this weird kind of fear and sensation. And ever since then, I had a thing about buttons.
And do you actually wear any clothing with buttons in?
Oh, yeah. I don't have a problem with shirts and things like that. It's just specifically women's cardigans. Ever since I killed again. It's specifically women's cardigan and single buttons. It's a strange thing, and it actually also relates to things like Skittles, the sweets.
Yeah, because they kind of look like buttons.
Or minstrels or any kind of sweets like that. I can't touch them. I can't eat them. I just have a funny thing about it.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't really no explanation for phobias. That's why they're phobias. Really. There's no logic to them.
A girl I used to go out with, two things about her. One was her thing was if you put in pasta, tubular pasta, and you were boiling it, if it upended, if it went vertically, and you could see the holes in the pasta, she couldn't go near the pot. She was just freaked out by the pasta.
It's bizarre. She thought she was going down a tunnel or something. Yeah.
Very, very weird. But having said that, that same girl, I remember I said to her once, she said, "Do you want something with your cup of tea or what?" And something to eat, and I went, "I have a piece of jam," right? And I think I don't know if she asked me how it happened, but I said, "Aye, and put some margarine on it or butter," and she went, "No, you don't put butter or margarine on a piece of jam." And I went, "How?"
I do.
And she went, "You just don't." And eventually she admitted to me that I don't really know where it came from, but she believed for years that if you put margarine or butter on a piece of jam, you get pregnant.
Oh, brilliant.
So
people are weird, aren't they?
So there you are.
But it's because we were doing this episode about phobias, I kind of had a look around, Google and all of it, and there's two bizarre ones. One is that actually I think it's called pognophobia, which is a fear of beards and moustaches.
All right.
So, maybe over the years people have freaked out when I go, approach somebody and then they run away with my fucking moustache.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
neither did I.
But then I guess it makes sense because you get animals who don't like.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Dogs who dislike facial hair or stuff.
Yeah,
dark-haired men or something like that.
Yeah. So there's no explanation to it. But the most bizarre one, which really hit me between the eyeballs, it was called anethiophobia or something. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a fear that somewhere a duck is staring at you. No, it's true. It sounds like something out of Monty Python, but it's fucking true.
So it's not that it is, that somewhere it is.
Yeah, it's not a kind of like that there might be a duck on your window and he's going to attack you or something. It's not like that. It's just that somewhere in the world there is a duck staring at you.
But there is, isn't there?
I suppose, yeah. I suppose, strictly speaking, there is, yeah.
That's
It's more of a kind of a paranoid thing. It's not a fear of being attacked, but it is an actual phobia. I couldn't believe it.
I want that in a t-shirt. Actually. Just somewhere in the world there is a duck
staring at. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Somebody's freaking out. You just want to slap them and go, "Hey, listen, never mind Gaza. Somewhere in the world
a duck is staring.
There's a duck staring at you. Get things into perspective. Come on."
It is fucking true. I couldn't believe it.
That's bonkers.
It is bizarre, isn't it? I'd love to know how many people actually suffer from that phobia.
Suddenly I don't feel so bad.
Yeah, I know. Buttons are mild, yeah. I had flying and spiders, but compared to ducks staring, it's just nothing.
That's fantastic.
Way down the list.
Brilliant.
So it's been a real pleasure, mate.
Pleasure. Thank you.
You've made me laugh so much, as you always do.
Cheers.
And thanks a million for coming on. It's been, ladies and gentlemen, Gavin Mitchell and Bob.
Why, thank you so much, and thank you, Bob. What a guy. And brilliant. And 25 years. Jeez. Yeah.
Well, we meet
it's
again.
Like an anniversary.
The chances of me meeting again in 25 years. What age are you, by the way?
Well, me, it's my 60th this year.
60th.
Like 6th old.
Well, you could possibly meet again in 25 years' time. I think some chance I'll be there, though.
Hey, come on now. Never.
Brilliant. Thanks again, mate.
Oh, cheers, pal.
There you go. I really enjoyed that. I think you can hear that throughout the interview. I really had good fun, and I hope Gavin enjoyed it as well. I'm sure he did. Now, as you know, podcasting is basically about engaging with your audience, so it'd be lovely to hear from any of you. If you've got any, maybe questions about Father Ted or anything about my 30-long illustrious stand-up career. Well, it wasn't always illustrious. There were bad moments here and there, but by and large, if you have any questions about that, or maybe if you have any comments to make on the podcast in general, it'd be brilliant to hear from you, so do get in touch. Once again, you can get us on the usual places on Twitter at Waydimg, that's WAYDIMG, or you can contact us on the email, which is whatareyoudoinginmygarden@gmail.com. So do get in touch, and we'll be back next week with episode 10, which is about heckling orchestra conductors and introducing you to my rather unusual flatmates, Martin and Madeline. See you then. Bye-bye.